Quick disclaimer. I don't know how to edit a video, so you're just gonna be watching the same three trailers I found on repeat over and over again. So yeah, put it on the background, kind of listen to like a podcast. That'd be great. Awesome. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. Today I wanted to share my thoughts and opinions on James Gunn's Superman, the beginning of this brand new DC universe. Right now, this is going to be a spoiler review, but don't worry, I'm going to start with my general thoughts on the movie before I jump into my full breakdown with, specific plot details and things like that. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. However, if I had to describe it with just one word, that word would be bloated, right? This movie leans very heavily into the James Gunn comic book style, which definitely works for some moments, but does feel a little bit overstuffed in others with just how many characters he tries to introduce into this world that, feels it's completely set up already, right? This movie kind of feels like a sequel to another movie that would explain do a lot of the world building that I feel like we're missing in this. This movie really just kind of throws you into the deep end with how this world is set up, right? It starts with this. I don't want to get into spoilers, but yes, I feel like a standout for me was the action, right? And I really like how, like James Gunn, he does really good with his action. All the Guardians movies, Suicide Squad, great action. At the same time, I really like how Superman feels a lot more human. We've been so beaten to death with this, God among man version of Superman, which it's really nice to see his more human side. I wish we got more of that because this movie is really overstuffed. There's so many characters. I'm just getting into spoilers. That's my review. Great movie. Go see it. If you haven't seen it already, go see it. My overall thoughts, a little overstuffed. Anyway, let's get into it, right? Movie starts. You're hit with a huge wall of exposition, right? It's like, what is it, like 300 years ago, metahumans were discovered on Earth. Was it like 30 years ago, Superman landed? 3 years ago, he revealed himself to the world as Superman. 3 days ago, he intervened in a war. And 3 minutes ago, he got his ass kicked and lost his first battle ever as Superman, right? Now, it's a cool idea, got this 333 motif, whatever that could be referring to, whether it's, the DC Trinity. I'm not really sure why it's referring to 3 all the time, but, I don't hate it. I think it's a fine kind of poetic way to start this. But it definitely throws you into this lived-in universe with metahumans already integrated into, the world, right? But it does so in a way where already we're kind of being dropped into a part 2 of a larger story. This is immediately is so much fast tracking and really doesn't let this new universe that we're supposed to be creating kind of breathe and create itself. It's kind of already created and we're already in it. Anyway, Krypto comes over and rescues Superman, right? And, Krypto. If you're a dog person, I guess you'll love Krypto. Personally, I'm not. I get that he's there to kind of make Superman more relatable, but he's a little bit overused, in my opinion, right? Some of his scenes were just too much. He's fine for what he's meant to be, but at times it's just a bit much for me. He's very comedic relief at times, and sometimes he's very, convenient for the plot. And I don't love that. I don't love how Krypto's used. But overall, he's fine. He's funny sometimes. I guess it works. It just feels like one more thing added on to everything else going on in the movie, which we'll get to, right? So, we get the Fortress of Solitude. Superman is healed, right? And the robots, while he's getting healed, the robots are giving, the craziest exposition, right? He's like, there's a line where one of the robot number 4 or something is like, when you crashed here 30 years ago from Krypton, your message was damaged your message from your parents was damaged. But we can't we can decipher it because it's in the Krypton language. And so some weird thing like that kind of caught me off guard early in the movie. I was like, whoa, that's the kind of dialogue we're going to be using, just like exposition, right? It was just one of the moments where I feel like the script could have used a little bit more workshopping, right? And there's another moment later on that, really could have used some workshop, but we'll get there, right? It's just this dialogue leans really heavily into telling you about this world instead of, showing you, right? Because it is already set up, and it's just, instead of showing you the effects of this setup world, it just tells you what happened and tells you all these things, which does become a recurring issue, I find, with the dialogue in the script. Anyway, we learn that the engineer, one of Lex Luthor's little operatives, tracks Superman to the fortress while he's getting healed. And she does this, I guess, so Lex can kind of find Superman's secrets, right? So they figure out where the location of the Fortress of Solitude is. It's great. The bad guys do. Superman flies back to face the Hammer of Baravia. And once again, he loses. What a shame. Lex is like helping to coordinate the fight from afar, calling out strategies in like a battleship terms, like A1, B18 or something. And I just want to point out, Superman, I don't think he wins any fights in this movie on his own. Like, he always needs help, whether it's from Krypto or the Justice Gang or Metamorpho later in the movie, right? And I don't know, it might just be Gunn's way of grounding him, making him more relatable, really, really pushing away from that godlike Man of Steel version we got. Oh, I hate Man of Steel, I'll be so honest. Or it might just be like the ensemble nature of Gunn's storytelling, but I don't know. Superman is just really weak in this movie. Which it's not really a bad thing. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. It just kind of caught me off guard. Like, oh, okay, so we're really toning back this Superman character, which is fine. I mean, it works in the movie. Anyway, what happens? He beats up the Hammer. There's this little Lois interview scene, which is really good. The dialogue in there is really good. That's like one of the two scenes, really like one of the only scenes that I really liked the dialogue, with Superman and Lois talking to each other, like doing an interview. And we saw this clip in like trailers and everything. Superman gets really heated. And he's like, no, people are going to die, doing this for good and all that stuff. And I really like that. I really like that kind of thesis that Superman has, because let me tell you, Snyder's Superman had none of that. So anyways, the next day, Lex needs a distraction. Lex Luthor needs a distraction to get Superman out of the Fortress of Solitude so he can go in and, dig up some dirt. So he releases this like little baby kaiju thing, and his goons do it. His little henchmen do it. And they're like, this is really small. You sure this is going to be a big enough distraction? And the one guy just says, oh, it'll grow. And then literally the next cut, it is this huge monster in the middle of this square. Like, whoa. Like, it's very comic booky, which I could accept, right? But it just feels like, I don't know. It feels, I don't want to say lazy, but it's just like, we need this big monster to appear. I guess it's kind of comedy, like, oh, look, it's haha, big monster. But I don't know. It's weird. Like, why is this, where did Lex get this monster? Why is this monster suddenly growing overnight into this giant thing? I don't know. I don't really get it. It was cool though. I liked the fight that happened, right? Which I'll get to later. First, Lex goes over into the Fortress of Solitude. He finds this message from his parents, and him and the engineer somehow managed to translate this perfectly. And I had to, they fix the message, they translate it. I had to raise an eyebrow here. I was like, okay, this is a totally alien language that no one on Earth has ever heard before, right? Could use totally different linguistics, and somehow Earth's best, language experts and computer scientists figured out how to translate this from, this pieced together broken broadcast. I don't know. I was half expecting it to, at the end, just be revealed that this was like a fabricated message. But no, it's not. And it's just, this is Lex somehow managed to translate this Kryptonian message with, no prior experience to ever hearing this language before, ever. And he does it in like an hour, right? Because in the meantime, Superman's fighting this big old kaiju. Which, this fight, by the way, oh my gosh. Okay, it's really cool. I like that Superman is, he's saving squirrels. He's doing all that stuff. I thought that was awesome. He, blows a little dog away with his ice breath. I liked his ice breath. He should have used it more. That's cool. But there was one scene, one line in this when the Justice Gang shows up, and oh my gosh, so it's crazy. So Lois and I think it's Kat or Jimmy. I don't really remember. The Daily Planet people are a whole nother. They're wasted. Literally, Lois and kind of Jimmy Olsen are the only people that matter in the Daily Planet. Anyway, there's this cool little cameo of Christopher Reeve's son on the TV. I thought that was kind of cool. But he says this line, and it is absolutely atrocious with its exposition. Right? He says, "This is word verbatim. I wrote this down." I was like, "Whoa!" It is. The Justice Gang has arrived on the scene. That's Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific. They're funded by the Lord Tech Corporation. And it cuts away. That is... Oh my gosh. That is just so much. We have the Justice Gang. We have Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, funded by the Lord Tech Corporation. Let me tell you all of this stuff instead of just, showing you that this is what they are, right? That is crazy dialogue writing. I don't know. That line really stood out to me. I was just like, wow, that is crazy. Anyway, he's a reporter. They can kind of get away with it, right? Oh, it's a reporter reporting to the rest of the people in the universe that this is who these people are. But at the same time, they've had metahumans around forever. They already know who these heroes are, right? This is not world building. This is telling the audience that they need to know, what they need to know about these characters. That Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific are the Justice Gang, and they are funded by Lord Tech Corporation, right? It's just, it's clumsy. I don't know. Cool cameo though. That was fun. Anyway, they defeat the kaiju, defeat the big monster, and then Lex reveals this evil Kryptonian message. Apparently, the second half of this message was saying that, Superman is here to conquer you, and he's gonna get a harem, and he's gonna make Earth Krypton, essentially. And that's enough for everyone to be like, whoa, calm down there. Genuine reaction. I get it. The people don't like Superman. That's good. I like that. So it's like Superman, he's in a little pickle here. He doesn't know what to do. So Lex, at the meantime, while he goes to Fortress, he kidnaps Krypto to kind of provoke Superman. We get another scene with Superman kind of contemplating his his purpose on Earth, right? Because his whole life he's like, he thought he knew that his parents were trying to be protect and serve the people of Earth, but that's just not true. And so he has this nice scene with Lois with the big fight in the background. A couple people don't like that scene. I didn't mind that scene. I kind of liked it. I thought it was really good. And at the end of it, he's like, I need to go find Krypto because he's probably scared, and he's a bad dog, but he's scared and I gotta go help him, right? It's a really nice human side of Superman that I really like seeing. So Lex has kidnapped Krypto, and that whole thing with Krypto being kidnapped, it's like Krypto did not need to be in this movie, right? Lex only kidnapped Krypto so that he can get another bad video of Superman being angry in his office, right? Everyone already, the whole city already didn't like Superman after they revealed that Superman was sent here to conquer the world. Obviously Superman didn't know that, but all the people are like, whoa, that's crazy, right? So that's just Krypto. They did not need that whole Krypto side plot where he gets kidnapped and just to get another video of him being angry, where's the dog? All that stuff. That was in a clip they released, I think. So anyway, Superman ends up surrendering to the government, and he gets put away by Lex because for some reason the government just gives Superman to Lex Luthor. I think it's because earlier he was setting up this kind of Planet Watch protection thing. I don't remember exactly what it was called. So he gives Superman to Lex Luthor, put him away in a pocket universe, and then all of a sudden, whoa, there's Metamorpho there. Okay, how'd he get here? What is happening? So Lex is using this guy that he found, I guess, somewhere and managed to kidnap to create kryptonite because there's no more kryptonite on Earth. And apparently he's Metamorpho is being, blackmailed by his kidnapped child, right? His Lex kidnapped his Metamorpho's kid, baby Joey, who is terrifying beyond belief. That is just, I do not like looking at that baby. But again, it's just like, it's another thing in this movie where there's just no introduction, there's no build up, it's just dropped in on us. Just like, here's a new character, Metamorpho. He is the one person in the whole world that can weaken Superman. Lex just so happens to have him, and also he has a baby, so there's that too. I love Metamorpho as a character. He's so cool. He's just so dropped in here out of nowhere. It's like, okay, wow. Anyway, it just feels like it feels like it should have been in like another. We should have seen this set up in maybe another movie, maybe a prequel movie. This really does feel like it's the sequel to something that already happened. Like, this movie feels very much like a sequel. Anyway, Jimmy Olsen. This is his kind of plot relevance here. Him and Lex's girlfriend, Eve, secretly expose Lex's war crimes by, like, Eve takes sexy photos where they're really just like selfies in front of all of Lex's plans, and kind of sex them to Jimmy Olsen, like, oh, look at my hot photos, all my selfies, and look in the background, oop, there's Lex land. He's trying to take over. He's plotting with the war that's going on across the country that Superman tried to prevent. With Baravia, he's like, oh, he's like, giving them guns or something. So there's all that stuff, which is cool. That kind of happens throughout this next part. Jimmy kind of uncovers this, so that's cool. It's something for Jimmy to do, and it's something for Lex's girlfriend to do. But again, this is two more characters that we're putting in here for this one, kind of thing that needs to happen to just push the plot along. Anyway, it's fine. There's just a lot going on. What happens after that? Mr. Terrific and Lois manage to track down Superman because Mr. Terrific conveniently plants micro nanobot trackers into everyone's bloodstream. That's very interesting. Is it a lazy plot convenience? Maybe. But it's funny. It's a funny joke, right? He's like, oh, you do it. He's like, oh, I do it to everybody. And it's great. It's funny. Mr. Terrific's really good. He gets this super, super sick one-shot action sequence, which feels, kind of like a cousin to the Yondu scene from Guardians 2, when him and Rocket are breaking out of the ship and killing everyone in the ship. It's, it's like this, you're like from like Lois's perspective inside this force field, and you're kind of circling around, seeing Mr. Terrific use his little spheres to kill everyone, which I really like personally, because Mr. Terrific was the one character in this movie where I'm like, I don't really know who that is, and so I like that they gave him a lot to do rather than Hawkgirl. Like, if they had to pick someone to do a lot of things, I'm glad it was Mr. Terrific, because I feel like the general populace is unfamiliar with him, as opposed to Hawkgirl and Green Lantern, who, is a little more familiar. They still didn't really have anything to do in this movie until the end, which we'll get to, but it was cool to have them around. So they get there, they find the portal entrance to go rescue Superman out of this pocket dimension, and they do this cool action sequence, and they get up, and then they just stand in the portal entrance. They don't do anything. They're like, oh, I'm gonna go try to find them with my T-spheres, and they're gonna fly around. They don't really do anything. Not that I can remember, I don't think, because Superman ends up convincing Metamorpho to help him and stop poisoning him with kryptonite. After Lex brings in this random civilian who helped Superman earlier, plays Russian roulette. Really cool scene. I like seeing Lex be angry Lex. That was really awesome. So he convinces Metamorpho to help him. Superman convinces Metamorpho to help him out. They break out. Superman saves Krypto, and also Metamorpho's kid. In this, really very, very comic book style fight scene. This is like the most comic booky the movie is. There's like, Metamorpho ends up this like floating head with tentacle arms because he uses his elements to make like explosions, and he blows up his body, but he's fine because he's Metamorpho and he's so cool. There's like a big black hole they get stuck into. It's really chaotic. It's really fun. The whole time Superman is protecting this baby, who that baby's got to have like shaken baby syndrome or something, because that was, he was flying around, getting thrown around. He was just holding this baby up. It was crazy. It was really cool. So after that, Superman manages to escape with Metamorpho. They all go their separate ways, but Superman is really weak from, the kryptonite poisoning and all that stuff. So he can't go back to the Fortress of Solitude because that was all wrecked by Lex. So he goes and visits Ma and Pa Kent for a little rest and a little advice. And it's a really, really nice, really sweet scene, but it kind of feels a little too late. These characters that kind of show up, Ma and Pa Kent, they were in another scene earlier where they were just calling Superman saying, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" But basically this whole thing is just to tell you the film's theme of family and purpose and all that stuff and hope, right? Pa Kent kind of sits down with Superman and is like, "You're not defined by what your parents want you to be. You're defined by your actions, and your actions have proven that you're a good man, and regardless of what your parents wanted for you." And it's great, and it's kind of like, oh man, his adoptive parents are his true family, and not these his alien parents, all that stuff. It's sweet. I like it. In the meantime, Lex Luthor, he escalates things by causing a huge rift in the city because he's mad that Superman escaped. So he's like, I need Superman back over here because I don't want him over in Baravia because that's where the war is going on, and I need the war to happen so I can be like an emperor of this one part of this country that's super far away. So there's all that stuff. Superman and Mr. Terrific go back into the city, and they fight the Engineer and Ultraman, which let me tell you something. So yeah, the fight with the Engineer with the nanobots in the lungs, that was really cool. I really liked that. What was really funny is that the movie explicitly tells us that the Engineer is not dead and is just unconscious. And then in the next scene, Superman does his laser vision spinning in a circle like he did in the trailer. And you cannot tell me that every single person survived that. They have a little cutaway where it shows they just have burn marks on their chest and they're all breathing and moving around. But Superman going all crazy, angry with his laser heat vision and, spinning in a circle of a bunch of guys running at him. There's no way he didn't, accidentally clip one of their heads. These, not all of them survived it. Anyway, I thought that was funny. That was a really cool scene. So the what's the name? The Engineer is out of the way. Ultraman and Superman are now going at it. They're like, boom, boom, boom. We find out that Ultraman is a Superman clone. He's really strong, but he's really dumb, which is why Superman feeds him the commands through the comm system with the little drones so that Superman can watch. And so Superman figures this out, and he makes Krypto just destroy all the drones, feeding Ultraman directions. And ultimately, I think a bus comes and falls and pushes him into a black hole in this rift, which is really cool. I like that. Then, meanwhile, all this, the Daily Planet people are figuring out that, Lex has an evil scheme. So they get into this spaceship in the top of the Daily Planet, because Lois Lane has a spaceship from Mr. Terrific. That was a thing that happened. And these 6 or 7 people, only 2 of them we really know. They got, you have Kat and Perry and another guy, and then there's Jimmy and Lois. Jimmy writes up his little report little Lex is evil. They make this super cool journalism take down Lex Luthor, and it's great. They crack the story. In the meantime, Mr. Terrific and Superman jump up into the Lex Luthor little hovercraft that they're at, and they what do? They close the rift. And Superman and Lex, I really like this. Superman and Lex Luthor, they talk to each other, and they're like, yo, Superman's like, I stand for hope, all that stuff. And Lex, he's finally, giving his you won today, but I'll get you tomorrow or the next day. Blah, blah. He's having this it's actually this really cool back and forth that I kind of wanted to go on longer, but Lex Luthor gets cut off in the middle of his sentence by Krypto jumping up, knocking him down, and throwing around like Hulk threw around Loki in the Avengers. And it's just why did we need to have a joke there? Why did we need to have Crypto jumping up and doing this when we can get, meaningful character development from Lex and Superman? Right? Well, I don't know. Just there's a couple times in that movie like James Gunn just says, "Oh, emotional scene, cool scene. Boom, we have a joke in here. Yes, let's put that in there and make everyone happy and laugh, because if they're not laughing, then what's the point of the movie?" And thank you, James Gunn. Anyway, this is what I thought was weird. After this, they save the day. Lex Luthor goes to jail, blah, blah, blah. And then everyone just suddenly forgives Superman, even though Superman was never cleared of his crimes, right? I mean, crimes in quotes. He didn't really do anything wrong, but everyone's all like, "Oh, Superman's the best," when everyone still thinks that Superman is there to conquer Earth. Like, that was never debunked as something that Lex manufactured. That's just like actually is something that is, right? And so I thought that was weird that in order to sway the public opinion of Superman from this Earth planet conqueror to back to a superhero, they take down Lex and his scheme to, stop the war, or his scheme to continue the war in the other place. I don't know. It was a little weird. And I don't know if I mentioned, but throughout the final battle as well, there's a lot of things going on. Green Lantern and Hawkgirl go over to across the country and stop the war. And Green Lantern's like, "Sorry, man, Superman couldn't make it, but you got an upgrade." That was really cool. Hawkgirl did something in the movie, which I thought was cool because she didn't do anything. For the rest of it, she killed like the emperor or the president of that country, the bad guy who was working with Lex. It's just, there's just a lot going on. There's so many characters, so many ideas, and frankly, I feel like this movie definitely could have benefited from having 20 minutes to another half hour of just, letting scenes breathe and letting us develop these characters. It's just like, I don't know. There's just so much into this one movie, which is very odd going into a movie that's supposed to set up this brand new universe. But this universe is like already set up and there's so much going on, but we don't get really an explanation for any of it, which I thought was a little odd. That was honestly my biggest critique of it. But overall, it's a weird movie. It's very comic booky, very stylized in, the best and the worst ways. It's a very, very welcome, very different take on the Man of Steel that we've been seeing for the past however many years. And I love it. At the end of the day, it was about hope, all that stuff. It was very cheeky, very funny. There are some genuinely heartfelt moments, even if they are, undercut by James Gunn comedy. The action's really good. Mr. Terrific was standout. He's really awesome. It is, unfortunately, very exposition heavy. Got too many characters. It never quite earns its emotional payoffs, unfortunately, just because everything is moving so fast, and it really does feel like a sequel to a movie that we haven't gotten yet. At the end of the day, I would give Superman a 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, 6.5 out of 10. Just, above average enough that it's worth going to see, Anyway, I've been ranting for way too long. I hope most of this made sense. Just my general thoughts and opinions. I'm excited for the Supergirl movie. There's a little teaser at the end, which I thought maybe should have been the post-credit scene, but it was just at the end of the movie, which I guess, not everyone is going to stay for the post-credits. So that was cool that they were able to set up the next movie, not without having to make everyone wait for the post-credit scenes, which really aren't that all. It's just like a joke and then a picture of like Superman and Krypto on the moon, which I don't know. It's cool. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie. I thought it was fun. I'm excited for the future of the DCU. And yeah, that's about all I have to talk about for now. And I'll see you in the next one.